Okay.
Hi, good afternoon, Jane. I'm really looking forward to diving into this topic today on SMART goals and just why it is so important for us to set, SMART goals. So, yeah, maybe you can share a bit about it from your point, and then we can go on with our discussion.
Sure. Thank you, Shelley. And again, thank you so much for inviting me into the space and to talk about this wonderful topic. And for me, I think SMART goals are specifically important when it comes to coaching, because when we engage in a coaching journey with someone, it's so easy for that to become fluffy or gray and for people to not really know, when have I reached my goal? And I think if we don't know what that goal looks like, and if it's not really achievable, then it can leave people feeling uncertain about whether they've achieved something or not. Or else the coaching journey can continue and continue and continue because you're never sure when you've reached your destination. So for me, it comes from a coaching perspective. So I don't know if you want me to go ahead and share what I believe SMART stands for, or whether that's something that you'll be sharing.
Yeah, I think, for me, when I coach my clients too, we often just look at their, the current situation they're in and
Yeah.
what are they looking at improving or maybe moving forward in. They might be having a transition in their life that they need to like adjust to. So how would they approach that? So I think what's important for me is setting goals because it also gives them confidence as well. So that when they set clear goals, not just a generalized goal, it will also give them, the preparation to build on their confidence because obviously when they're prepared, they're a lot more confident. They're more clear on which direction they're going into.
Exactly. So I think we're speaking here to that very first letter S, being specific. So it's so important, as we're saying at the beginning of a coaching relationship, to say, okay, what does that goal look like specifically? How can we measure it? The M being the measurable, the A being, is it achievable? Sometimes we set goals that are unrealistic in some way, either because of constraints, personal or contextual or cultural or whatever the case may be. But is it actually achievable? Is it something that's realistic? And is it something that's time bound? And sometimes, as we're saying, if we don't set that out right at the beginning and really spend good time on defining that, we never know whether we've reached the goal. Or there's that sense of disappointment, or maybe I'm a failure because I haven't reached it, but it wasn't realistic in the first place, or the timelines were unrealistic, or it wasn't measurable. So these things are so important.
I guess, the client can also set very high expectations of them, themselves, which is human nature. So I think as the
Mm.
coach, you want to just guide them, to come up with the right goal. And then each
Yes.
session, they can talk about that goal and how they're going to meet that goal, because otherwise, then they have too many goals that they're focusing on and they don't have a clear goal. And I think
Mm.
it helps him to have an achievable one, to break it up into manageable steps as well. So the coach would
Mm.
just guide them and ask, perspective shifting questions to also offer some insights, as into what are they going to use to reach that specific goal, and even define that goal further into manageable steps so that it's
Mm.
not too general for them as well.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about breaking it down into manageable steps because it can't be something that's all changes necessarily after one session or in one session. And so usually, perhaps you do the same. People spread out their coaching sessions, say bi-weekly, I would say is the most common one. And they say, okay, well, let me probably start off with, say, 6 sessions, depending on what that goal is. And I think it's so important to set the goal for those, say it's going to be 6 sessions bi-weekly, and say, what do we want to have achieved by the end? What does the client want, as you say? And it's also important at the start of each session as a standalone to say, what do you think we can achieve in this session? So we've got a session goal as well as a long-term goal, so that there is that sense of clarity and achievement each step of the way. So I love what you're saying about saying we must break it down into manageable steps.
That's a very clear point, that you added on, Jane. And I think, what I try to do with my clients is 5 minutes before we end the session, I always
Mm.
revisit that goal that they have set in the beginning of the
Mm.
session.
Love it.
And then I would say maybe you would, if you feel comfortable and if this is a decision that you want to make in your journey to be successful, what are
Mm.
some channels you are going to use, or how are you going to gather your information to help you meet this goal for our next session? So we would talk about even approaching how the goal would look like in the next session, and what accountability or steps they're going to do to try and meet that goal in the
Yes.
next session, like gathering information, maybe speaking to the right people. Maybe they're looking for a new job, so how are they going to access that information to find the job,
Mhm.
channels of communication, whatever they would need to help them.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that you're saying, okay, let me help my client prepare for when we're going to meet again. And as you say, it's their journey, so they can choose what steps do I want to take between now and our next session? Is it gathering information? Is it speaking to people? And do they want some accountability? So we as coaches can offer that accountability if people want it. We can offer that support if they want it. Again, we're not making choices for the client. We're not telling the client what to do, but we're offering ourselves as a resource to help them make those shifts or changes between the sessions. So I love what you're saying.
Yeah, because I think it's quite important for them, to also find a way to measure their success. So even, in my coaching sessions, I think one of the most important key things that I always ask is, how much time could you see yourself meeting this goal? Can you look in the future and see how would this look like 3 months later? How would it make you look successful? To try and help them to have a vision for the future, because coaching is all about the present going into the future. So that for me is always a key question, how much time do they want to achieve this goal? And then they have to maybe write it down, or just to help with that accountability as well, to make it time bound.
Yeah. So important to say, what does that look like? And I think something that I also like exploring sometimes is what would that look like for you? And what would that feel like if you've reached that goal? How will you know if you've reached that goal or not? So there's so many senses that we can draw on to tell us when we've reached that goal and how it feels to have reached that goal.
Yeah, because I think the feeling aspect makes it much more genuine and authentic, because maybe that's something that they only looked at the practical channels on, how to help them move forward, but also
Mhm.
seeing how they're feeling about it, and
Mhm.
how is it going to change, make
Mm.
that transformation that they want to make in their lives. Just that sense of direction, that clear sense of direction. That's why we have goals, and we
Yes,
prepare
and
to help us.
yeah, exactly. And I think when you mention the word transformation, it also reminds me that it's important for them to establish why they want to make that change, because it needs to make sense in light of their own life's goals and meaning and purpose. Is it holistic? Does it make sense in their world? Because when the challenges come and the obstacles come, they're going to need to draw on that vision and on that motivation. What's the carrot? What's the stick? What's going to be able to help them to work through those challenges? Because as we know, reaching a goal is not easy. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on a coaching journey to help them get there. If it was that easy, we would all just Google it and do it.
And I think the key thing is, resilience is having that willpower. So that's why we
Mm.
have these coaching sessions, so that we can motivate our clients to make, their choices, and, to feel confident about their journey forward. If they're having a new job, they're looking for, maybe a new challenge in their job. They want a promotion. What are the steps they have to do in order to get there, and that they have that confidence as well. It's not just for formality. Well, I have to do this because this is what my boss has asked me to do, or this is what's expected of me. Society's expected this of me. But it's like an intrinsic motivation, and that I think comes with willpower. There's that connection that they need to develop through setting these goals.
Yeah, and as you say, sometimes it's intrinsic, sometimes it's something that they draw on internally, sometimes they need a little bit of external encouragement or motivation. And perhaps depending on whether they are introverted or extroverted, they would draw on different sources. And I think when you talk about the way forward as well, it also reminds me of that lovely model, one of my favorites, which is the GROW model, which really helps us to help our clients to structure their way forward. If we start with them on the G for goal setting, as we're saying, the R for the reality,
Mm-hmm.
where are they at currently, as you mentioned earlier? What are the opportunities? What are the obstacles for the way forward, which they might even be thinking about between sessions, not just in the sessions? And then the will or the way forward, what action steps will they take? So I love that, Shelley. I think this is such a helpful topic in any area of life, but especially in the area of coaching, which you and I both love so much. So thank you. Thanks so much for engaging in this topic with me.
Yes, thank you so much. And it's yeah, just to round off, I think the coach could also give constructive feedback too once they clear on their goal and that they're working towards meeting it. I mean, it's not just good to ask those questions, but it's also good to give the effective feedback so that the client has some clarity and, is, yeah, just has more insight into what they
Mhm.
need to do or what decisions they want to make in their journey. Visualizing success, like try to imagine themselves succeeding to build a positive mindset and also reinforcing their confidence. So it's something
Mhm.
that I really enjoy doing with my clients as well. So thank you so much for this opportunity, Jane. And
Thank you.
yes, I look forward to next time. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Shelley.
Okay. Bye.